George Bruno with the 21 report, the European edition. We're in Warsaw, Poland. And we're talking today with Piero San Giorgio. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for your invitation.
Yeah.
Great conference.
Yeah. What do you think so far of the conference?
It's the second day. It's great speakers.
Yes.
But also great audience. Young people.
Yes.
And not so young people, but who wants to learn, who wants to share, and from people who are older, like us, but who have experience to share. And this mixing of young and more experienced people together creates interesting synergies, interesting confrontation of ideas, with the objective, I think, shared to all of us to be better men and to have better lives. And I think this is a very valuable conference for the attendees and the speakers.
Yeah, it is transgenerational. There's a lot of mentorship happening. There's a wide range of ages here. And I've noticed all the men are taking notes wildly with the speakers. Everyone just wants to learn. Have you noticed that?
Yes, and I took notes myself.
Yeah.
I can learn even at my age.
Yes.
For sure.
Learning is a lifelong process. Comment on that. What do you think about that?
It is, and you can still learn until the last day of your life. And I think that as you age, you have more perspective on your past and on the history that brought you to be who you are.
Yes.
And learning is part of making who you are in that history. And so what is fascinating is that you discover the more you know, the more you have perspective, the more you know that you know little. And therefore, you see the vast knowledge and range of experiences that you could still access to and learn. And so you understand that it never stops. And if you have the right open mind and state of mind, you discover that not only is it pleasurable to meet people who have experience, you put aside your ego that you may have when you're younger, when you meet someone who's more experienced than you or has skills that you don't have. Instead of seeing that as a threat or as rivalry, you see it as an opportunity to exchange and learn, and everyone has experiences at least to share. And at the very least, these experiences are based on some skills that you can teach each other. And at worst, you can learn from mistakes of others, and that saves you a lot of mistakes of your own. And this creates a respectful environment between men, which is often lacking in today's society. It is something that I remember in the 70s and 80s that was prevalent in society, but has disappeared since. And I find it again in this kind of conference where I come as a speaker, as you do, with a lot of humility, with experience and thoughts to share. And I see people take them, but also react, sometimes challenge, sometimes that leads to very interesting discussions. And everyone comes out enriched and more knowledgeable and perhaps the wiser as well.
Yes.
So it is a great way to approach life, this attitude that I find in today's conference here, yes.
We have many teachers. Our teachers can be younger than us, our teachers can be older than us, but something that you said stayed with me. Sometimes mistakes can be our teachers. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, at worst, as we often say, perhaps the meaning of some people's life is to serve as warning to others. And I'll give you an anecdote. I have 4 kids, and at least the 3 older one, I often take them to the railway station. Not to take a train, not to watch train, but because behind the railway station, there's an area where the drug addicts are. So I'm not going to say to them, don't take drugs or whatever. I show them that this is what happens when, unfortunately, I'm not judging them, of circumstances of life, this is what happens when you're a junkie. And I can show them the state, the physical state, the mental state, the look of the people, the miserable, unfortunate life that these people have because of their addiction, for whatever reason. I'm not judging them as humans, but I'm showing them to make kids. And I say to them, well, look, one day you will have the choice. This is where drugs will or may lead you. So you will remember that when you will have that choice. Because I'm just your father now, and I cannot take care of all your lives forever. One day you'll be on your own. Remember that one day. And I'll do this once or twice in their life at different age. And I try to share that experience. So that's the extreme example of where mistakes can teach you. As a scholar of history, I love to see the mistakes that our past leaders and populations who went to wars for silly reason, they slaughtered each other for no reason. These were mistakes that we hopefully should learn from. And this is why we when we prepare for the future, which is my activity and what I write about, and also what I do. When you prepare the future, you take lessons from mostly the mistakes of the past, and also the good decisions that have happened in the past. But that historical perspective, added with the reasoning and wisdom of the analysis of that perspective, hopefully help us to make the best possible decision in the future. And so this is why it's this long chain linked events and people are very important to understand, and it's an infinite, of course, source of knowledge. So it's unending. You can learn this all your life, and it keeps perpetuating forever. And I hope my children will take it on, and so on and so on. And this is also part of the legacy, to teach them the reasoning and having the right perspective and the right way to have relationship, and therefore learning from mistakes of others as well.
I understand you are quite famous in Europe. You're the author of 9 books.
Right? 4 books, but translated into 9 languages.
9 languages, and wow, that really got around. What is the main message that you have taught your audience?
My best-selling book, which is called Survive the Economic Collapse, which is the one that is the most translated and the most best-selling. I think we've reached 200,000 copies, which is quite a lot for a non-mediatized book, is about facing the reality of the dangers that we are probably getting into, the rarefaction of resources, the scarcity of resources, the consequences of the population growth in today's world, the sorry and sad state of the financial system that we live in, with the overwhelming debt that is going to make it collapse sooner or later. It's a mathematical certainty, whereas we don't know exactly when, but it's certainly in the process of collapsing. Mm-hmm. And the consequences of that. Mm-hmm. And if these consequences are, as I theorize, and I give the reasons why I believe that theory will bring us to an economic collapse, with major consequences, then, and this is where I really focus the second part of the book, then we should prepare for it with some basic wisdom, basic preparation, mostly in skills, but with a coordinated strategy. This is where often people who prepare for catastrophes or whatever scenario they have in mind, they often go with a confused strategy. Buy a gun to defend yourself, buy some food. Yes. But you have to do it with a clear strategy and mm-hmm. a priority and an approach that I took from business planning, where I used to be in. I was in business development. When you approach a new market, you make a strategy first. You don't go randomly and you blunder your way around to success. It doesn't happen. You have a plan, a strategy that takes in account your personal resources, your personal finance, your health, how you can improve all that to make sure that you prepare in a sensible manner and not a confused and obsessional manner, without fear. This is also something that my next book is going to be on managing our fears. Because I often see people say, the stock market is going to crash. Let's go into Bitcoin, or let's buy gold, or let's buy some cans of ravioli to put in the cellar. Yes, but do it because you have a strategy, not because you are reacting to your fears and impulses. So I kind of teach in my books to set up these strategies and be sensible and in a way moderate, so that you don't alienate your friends and family, that you don't go too extreme in your what could become an obsession. And I often see it in people who've done this in the past. Being born in the 70s, I still remember when people were scared of nuclear exchange between America and the Soviet Union, and fortunately it didn't happen. And in Switzerland there was this nuclear fallout shelters that were being built everywhere, and people had to put food in it and so on. And often it felt to me as that, is it reasonable? Because not every house is a target for a nuclear missile. So why do we have shelters in every single house? When you think about it, it's an overkill. Of course, it was a great business, but the way we prepare has to be reasonable. It has to happen, but it has to be reasonable. So this is what I think the reason these books have been successful. That is that I try not to play on the fear. I make them aware of the risks.
Mm-hmm.
I make my readers aware of the risk, but I don't want to use the fear-mongering lever. I try to make them prepare in a reasonable fashion.
So surviving an economic crisis, now we're shifting to fear, and that sounds like surviving an emotional crisis now.
Also.
You were focusing on what happens around us. Now your next book will be on managing and focusing on what's within us, it sounds like. That's a natural progression.
Yeah, so I'm still working on this book, and it's probably going to take me another year or two to finish. But what is interesting is that fear is a natural emotion. It's actually a very useful emotion. It's good to have. Usually we are fearful when there's a good reason. We see a snake, we see a lion in the room. we have to react, and our brain is perfectly wired for fight or flight or freeze reactions. Perfectly. However, the modern world, under the name of stress, is constantly putting us into fears from the news, who are turning everything into a fearful event, from our day-to-day life, which is stressful and creates anxiety, which is much worse than fear, because we are in advance fearful of something that may or may not happen. So anxiety creates this constant tension within our immune system, within our bodies, and also that makes us eventually sick. Whereas a short-term fear is healthy, and the body knows how to manage the hormones levels once it's gone. You know, when you run away from your saber-toothed tiger, once the tiger is gone, that's it. Whereas today, your nagging boss or your nagging wife is always there. So you are fearful of making him or her angry. You're fearful of losing your job. You're fearful to be late. You're fearful of so many things.
And the media doesn't help at all. They're constantly pumping us with a fear factor, building up anxiety. And then you and I were talking about time for men to unplug, to get by themselves, to maybe sit back and have a bourbon and a cigar and just relax and think about the day, think about their life, think about the future, and just ponder things and release stress. And you respect the concept of a man unplugging from the matrix.
Absolutely. Unplugging, being alone. I think a man has to be alone quite a lot. We can think, we can learn, we can recover, we can lick our wounds, so to speak. I like, for example, for me, a way to relax is to read. I've read probably 4,000 books in my life so far. I love to read books, especially history, but also philosophy, psychology, and the novel once in a while. But this moment alone with your thoughts, or even without nothing, without thinking, just looking at the sunset over the mountains near my farm, or when I'm on holiday enjoying the sea and just doing nothing, just walking. I love to walk in nature and listening to conferences of some of those events. But certainly, this being alone enables you to think, enables you to unplug, enables you to ponder who has told you what and why and what is the reason over the last few days, and then say, hold on a second, but is it what I've been told, is it a fact? Is it true? And so you learn to think by yourself. This is what I always say in my conferences. There's one thing people should learn, is to think by yourselves. Don't believe me when I talk about economic collapse. Think, check the data. Don't believe anyone. Be yourself as a man, as a whole man, with your doubts, with your hesitation, with your humility. Yes, but think by yourself. Because you said something that was great the other day, and that my father was telling me the same thing. You're 100% shareholder of yourself. No one else is. So what you do with your life, in the end, is your responsibility. It's not your father's fault. It's not your mother's fault. It's not your school. It's not your wife's or fault. In the end, it's you. You decide. Sometimes you decide to suffer, and sometimes it's worth it. And sometimes it isn't, but it's you. Decide, think by yourself, be a master of yourself. And it's hard because, as we all know, we don't have 100% decision power on ourselves. We don't manage our hormones. We don't manage we don't decide which emotions we're going to feel. When you feel sad, you feel sad. However, you can decide how you react to them, how you manage your emotion. And indeed, fear is something that your instincts will bring to you. Your neurological system will bring you that state of stressful fear. And you sometimes say, okay, yes, there's a good reason to be fearful. I must act now. Or, no, this fear is irrational. It's anxious. It has been brought to me by the media, by the powers that be, because they want a population that is docile and therefore fearful. No, I'm not going to act on that fear, and I'm going to relax, and I'm going to have my glass of, I like good Italian wine or Spanish wine,
Yes.
and have a cigar and see the world burn under me if it has to be, but at least it will be my choice.
Yes. Learning from our mistakes, managing our emotions, preparing for the future. Piero San Giorgio, thank you.
Thank you.
What was your experience so far with the 21 convention?
Oh, outstanding. Outstanding. Professional, all across the board.
Really good energy with a lot of people, and I just like it because it's a very positive direction.
This, George, this has been a first-class event.
It's fantastic. You guys run a really tight ship. I've been to a lot of conventions over the course of my business career, and I can tell when things are well-run and when things aren't, and this is a very well-run operation. I was very impressed.
It's pretty incredible to see where Anthony's brought it, especially from last year, which was my first year here, and to see the upgrades he's made has been incredible.
I've got my notebook, and with every speaker, I've written down about 2 or 3 lines under each of the speakers of just the key prime stuff. That's good. That's good.
It's very surreal, man. I'm really enjoying it. I'm happy to live in such an era where such a thing like this is possible.
I have never seen a group of guys like this, a group of 200 men who are focused, squared away, they're working on their values. Just never met a bigger group of wonderful guys.
It's kind of neat because I've been to a fair amount of conventions in my day, but you never see one where the guys like here you can just see Ed Lattimore talking to Tanner about boxing.
Yeah.
You just sit down and then you tell your boxing experiences. Everybody's kind of pinging off each other. It's nice.
It has been fantastic. And it's been 4 days of guys all on the same page, working in the same direction.
Fascinating meeting some of the people, hearing their stories. You got people traveling from other parts of the world to come here just to see some of the speakers. That's amazing.
The thing that's impressed me is everybody here is very serious.
Yeah.
They're taking it close to their heart.
What a great convention.
Thanks, George.